COVID-19 still a global threat? Highway security concerns raised in Parliament. And from crime to business, an inspiring story.
This is National Emtv News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Friday's news. While coronavirus 2019 or COVID-19 remains a major health threat globally and to Papua New Guinea, the Health Department has advised the general public to be vigilant to ensure the virus doesn't reach PNG. As of 18th February 2020, 25 countries have been affected by COVID-19. And it is with great certainty from the National Department of Health that PNG has no case of the COVID-19 to date.
Emergency preparedness and response plan for COVID-19 has been developed with a budget, and the National Department of Health reappropriated 3 million kina from its internal resources to step up response processes and clinical supplies. The National Executive Council recently approved a 45 million kina budget with announcements made by Treasurer Ian Ling-Stuckey in Parliament of the first 10 million kina funding to be disbursed to relevant authorities, including the Health Department.
Budget-wise, the government has clearly given us the budget funding, and so now immediately we are working with Treasury to ensure that the 10 million that's required is brought to us for us to now execute. But within ourselves in the department, as we had alluded to before, we've got money also being allocated within our means to ensure that we will continue to escalate and execute. And that's about the amount of 3.3 million kina that's been allocated for us to use in terms of this response.
Giving numbers of the suspected cases as of 17th February, a total of 12,155 persons were screened at the different points of entry, and the health team has identified 312 persons as persons of interest and are being monitored regularly by the surveillance team. Health screening at Jackson's International Airport and at seaports continue, with further advisories to all arriving passengers to fill out mandatory health declaration forms. Protocol for isolation and quarantine of patients is developed.
Up to this point in time, we don't have any coronavirus. And that's a result of all the testings that have been done or screening processes that we have been executing through in the settings of our point of entry all up to this time. And the figures that I'm getting is around about 13,000. That's how much, like the number that have come through this process. And out of them all, about 300 have been those of interest. And from those 300, there were 8 that we had to get through for investigation. And so far, those testings have been negative. And so that's where we are at in terms of trying to be vigilant in approaching this outbreak.
Meanwhile, 300 kgs of personal protection equipment was shipped in yesterday from Dubai into Port Moresby.
WHO urgently shipping about 300 kilograms of the personal protection equipment from Dubai to Port Moresby yesterday, and hand over this one to Health Minister himself. So the content of this including protective goggles, which is used for putting in eye, and examination gloves, a face mask, a respirator, and a surgical gown. Those will be sufficient for the health worker to respond first initial 15 patients. I think that is critically important to ensure our health worker are protected, and there is a kind of urgent gap with WHO. We're happy to ship in to provide this support.
The department is working hard with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that people are protected from COVID-19, and should any case be found, will ensure the concerned is cared for. But it is also the responsibility of the general public to ensure they adhere to health messages being given through various media outlets.
The misinformation also has been handled. We had to go through the process of communicating with those concerns, so that they must abide and follow the right protocol, because these are real big messages or issues. So it has to come up to the appropriate levels to make those kind of qualified statements, if you like. And so our team is working with the private to get them to be on board, so that they clearly understand where their role is and where we as the national response, where our role is, so we all follow the protocol.
Annette Cora, National MTV News.
Still on the coronavirus, health officials are warning if New Zealand flu season coincides with the coronavirus outbreak, the New Zealand health system may be unable to cope with. It comes after violent protest overseas as anger boils over a quarantine zone in Ukraine.
Chaos in Ukraine as coronavirus fears grow. Protests from locals delaying the bus bringing 70 people from China into quarantine.
Our sanatorium is not adjusted to isolate them here. We don't want to become an isolation zone, an exclusion zone.
It comes as the number of cases in South Korea spikes. Special care zones created for the sick in 2 cities. And at least 5 Americans are the first in a new isolation unit in Washington state after testing positive for the virus once they left the Diamond Princess. Just last night, Kiwis trapped on the vessel arrived back in New Zealand.
It's really boring because there's not much you can do. You just got to idle around, you know what I mean?
2 Australians on board the same Mercy flight have since tested positive, but the quarantine plan here won't change.
So the risk would be similar to when they were on the ship. In fact, arguably, the risk of transmission on the plane was lower because there were very strict precautions in place.
Health officials have long warned it's a matter of time until the coronavirus arrives in New Zealand. But there's concern an outbreak could coincide with the flu season, putting the country's hospitals under the pump.
They don't get a break. Their beds are full or more than full, not just in the winter and with flu season, but year round. So the last thing we need is another epidemic.
If we also get a COVID-19 outbreak superimposed on that, that will add additional pressure.
One way to relieve that pressure, preventative measures. 2020 is expected to be another record year for influenza vaccines. Anticipating the demand, the ministry's ordered nearly 1.5 million doses of flu vaccine. That's more than 100,000 more than last year.
What is absolutely within our control at the moment is to vaccinate as many people as possible with the flu vaccine once it's available.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization's hoping for early results within weeks from the first clinical trials of coronavirus drugs.
And back home, Prime Minister James Marape has arrived in New Zealand for his official visit to the country since being elected. Marape met with his counterpart New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern at the Government House. Bilateral discussions on diplomatic, political, immigrations, consular relations, defence and security and trade relations are on the agenda, including the Bougainville referendum, where New Zealand has played an important role. Also there for the state visit, Minister for National Planning Sam Bassel, Northern Governor Gary Juffa, West New Britain Governor Francis Maneke and Te Waiasiasi MP Kobi Bomareo. Before leaving for New Zealand, the Prime Minister was in Fiji on Wednesday for Israel Pacific Leaders Summit, where the President for Israel, Reuven Rivlin, met with members of the Pacific Islands Forum. He acknowledged the government of Fiji through Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama, who hosted the meeting for all parties. Discussions were held on issues of mutual concern with leaders of the 16 Pacific Island countries who are all members of PIF. Marape showed interest in Israel's advanced agricultural technology. He also welcomed Israel's support to PIF countries to have 100 professionals study agriculture technology and security in Israel. Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu is concerned with the increasing number of hold-ups by thugs along the Highlands Highway. Governor Numu says the highway between Eastern Highlands and Madang is becoming a haven for criminals. He directed his questions to Police Minister Brian Kramer, who responded, stating only 40% of police are active in that part of the region.
The Eastern Highlands Governor raised a series of questions on the floor of Parliament today, demanding answers from the Police Minister. Governor Numu said for years the people of Eastern Highlands have become victims of harm hold-ups. Numu says the most recent incident left more than 10 people hospitalized.
Harass him, assault him, even hospitalize him. All people blomilo Eastern Highlands, planting him bagarat. By enough policy work, find him out and get those people arrested and face the full force of the law.
Adding on to his list of questions, the Eastern Highlands Governor asked if highway patrols are monitoring the stretch between Lae, Medang and Goroka. He asked if police will maintain a safe passage for the travelling public.
And I'll be giving directives to the police commissioner to order the Northern Command to increase the number of police along that highway.
Police Minister Brian Kramer says harm hold-ups happen all over the country but are not reported. Kramer says since taking office, report shows only 40% of policemen are active.
And I've been informed that of those 7,200, only about 30 to 40% are competently active. Another close to 60% in Otumas. So you can understand an organization where 60% don't turn up on time, don't do their job. Now you like talking more, deploy more, look out in Highlands Highway. They will be reluctant.
But there is more to improving the safety of the public between Medang and Goroka. The police minister says legacy issues of funding, police welfare and retirement are some factors affecting police operations. Minister Kramer says levels of government must work with the police hierarchy to maintain policing in the country.
To need the assistance of members, the assistance of governors, to spend even some time to recognize your officers on the ground, to acknowledge their good work. Don't get them to jump in a car and follow you around. That's not their job. Their job is to serve their people.
Jack Lepava Jr., National Emtv News.
Still in Parliament, NCD Governor Powis Pakup questioned the police minister of the high influx of high-powered guns in parts of the country. With the police investigating a number of deaths of policemen killed by unlicensed firearms, Governor Pakup demanded answers on what the police department is doing. Governor Pakup says it is important to investigate the deaths and also to investigate the supply chain of illegal firearms.
Police might investigate and arrest the perpetrators or pull him trigger, but these people who are supplying guns, trafficking the bullets, they're equally guilty. So I think second question or third question amongst them, eager police investigation to find out the proliferation of guns and bullets into these tribal areas, arming the tribes.
Intelligence coming through that some of these firearms and ammunition are being supplied by members in our defense force, and also some being supplied across border. But again, these are just brief intelligence. I have yet to see any specific evidence. So police are now focusing on that, but I need to make important point. Coming in as minister, our police force is facing legacy issues over the last 40 years. Insufficiently funded, welfare issues, retirement, pensions, and yet we expect them to perform at the highest standards in such high-risk situations.
The PNG party yesterday nominated its candidate in Lae to contest the Menyamia by-election. Party leader and opposition leader Beldan Nama said the party's aim to endorse its candidate for Menyamia Open is to set the foundation in Morbe province. Candidate Eki Yaku, a former Kiap from Hekwange LLG of Menyamia, says he's confident in winning the election.
Economically, we are independent. And district like Menyamia is one of the resource districts in the country. Menyamia is producing some of the best coffee in the world. But in the last 44 years, successive governments, successive members of parliament of Menyamia, successive national government, even been look this kind of opportunity and capitalize now, helping them, empowering people living in Menyamia too or not. I think answer no. Reason why we play like come endorsing candidate of Menyamia district or the by-election is to set the foundation for PNG party in the Morbe province. And Me like talk also, me like no come campaign, no me like come crime. Me come campaign, no me by winning business.
I will serve you and I deliver this one by district lo yublol asigi na me can go no menya na by district lo me don menya by pipe lo yublay time yublay establishing na secret lo yublay tasta Miami is too big. It's a big district and one man cannot do it. Embodrim Makam, Embodrim Karamaya, Embodrim Bolo district, Marawak Electric, all this layer, Abu Orinara, it's too big.
My pledge to the people of Minyama, you know, can put on no sugar, you know, can put on no bag rice, you know, can put on no one again, no lily something, one a man by come and giving me. You look in quality, no man, no plus threat, man supplying coffee, no plus. Mansa lugo dim you lo road lo place lo soim you lo how lo sit down and this man you must mark it. I must talking you done. I must challenge you will not be candidate also. Our candidate will come strong and we will ensure that Minema will have a new candidate leader underneath lo party. Then underneath lo party lo nibla PNG party that we will save Minema first and then we will save Papua New Guinea.
32 candidates have nominated for the Menyamia by-election as the Election Commission prepares for polling in the rural district. 7 of the candidates are endorsed by parties including the ULP, PNC and the People's Party. 25 are running as independent candidates. Provincial Election Manager Simon Soheke said all the candidates are men. You're watching National MTV News. We'll be back with more after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. The flooding in East New Britain province earlier this week has caused havoc on commuters travelling into Rabaul and Kokopo town. The most affected areas are located along the North Coast Road. The village of Vunalir is one of the worst hit by flood following the heavy torrential rain. The main road connecting the North Coast area with the main urban towns remained inaccessible. Villagers who wanted to get into town were ferried on boat to the next village to catch a PMV. Locals say the situation had turned from bad to worse in recent days. They are appealing to the East New Britain provincial government to assist with immediate repair work on this much needed infrastructure. More than 700 students from St. Michael's Secondary School in Brahman Medang province may be forced to stay home if the bridge linking the school to the main road is not fixed. The heavy rains have washed away part of the bridge and local missionaries say it's only a matter of time before schools and services are affected.
This is what it looks like at Bayer Bridge. One part has been removed by floodwaters. Missionary Max David, who's lived here for many years, says it's only a matter of time before the whole bridge is washed away and the people and the communities are cut off.
One foundations of the bridge on the Brahman side have been washed away all around. We put a temporary bridge across. The district weren't able to help us and we were forced to do something for ourselves, so we put a temporary bridge across. But the river needs training and the bridge and the flood waters need to be controlled.
Last week, the Catholic Archbishop of Medang, Anton Bal, visited the parish. He's also concerned that 700 students may be forced to go home if the bridge breaks and the station is cut off.
Seeing this road condition and the bridge, I think I shouldn't just take things for granted or pretend that things are okay. And so that's why I'm pointing it out so that those who are responsible can do something.
The only way to get there is by land cruisers, and even this tough four-wheel drive struggles on the road. The road hasn't been maintained for many years. Much of the services here are provided by the churches. Scott Whitey, National MTV News, Leh.
A man who once resorted to crime to make a living is now running a bicycle repair business. Colin Kunan is a long-time resident of West Taraka, one of Leh's urban settlements where petty crime is rife due to unemployment. Colin said he gave up on criminal activities because he saw no future in it.
Unemployment, poor sanitation and overcrowding, these are common issues in urban settlements, and West Taraka is no exception. The population that really feel the pinch of these realities are the youths. Most are school dropouts, while others could not continue over school fee issues. And also left with no job opportunities, most resort to petty crime to survive. Such was the case before for now 45-year-old Colin Kunan, who gave up that lifestyle to start a small bicycle repair business.
Suppose Mr. Natin bamigo beken juni more pasin lumiken na bamigo limgan ken na bamistile. So milugi planti man moksi bagara pinis land police. So police sambla mol paralyze. So milugi mo semnan 2000 straight and miuge DSN no sem mima satok mima planim garian o miuge mol nar blawo kwe papagot ba one belonga migan survive lem.
Colin started his business with repairing bicycles and now also sells bicycle parts, most of which he collects from rubbish dumps or from old bicycles donated to him.
Sometimes building go man kam ken no last kim parts na minugat na so one plan building na halfway na em stop em parts so like no em stop lap so mi burkim ken no mi salim lol ken so tami burkim salim lol ken na mi chimla 12.
As someone who is just starting his small business, Colin said he is not aware of SME grants from the government, saying there should be more awareness. For now, Colin says there are no big plans for his business as yet, but he says he's glad he chose this life over resorting to crime. Charlene Airy, National Emtv News, Leh.
The Department of Agriculture and Livestock has entered into an agreement with Taylor Pacific, a private company, to import cattle to slaughter and sell in the country. DAL Minister John Simon said this is due to ensure the people have access to cheap and affordable meat. A memorandum of agreement was signed between the department and Taylor Pacific to signify the start of this partnership.
This partnership will now see Taylor Pacific importing kettles from Australia. The kettles will be kept in the country for 21 days before it is slaughtered and sold at a cheaper price. Agriculture Minister John Simon says this investment will see people have access to cheap and affordable meat and help increase production in the livestock sector.
And we would promote the areas of livestock. We have limited livestock in the country and not enough to meet the beef demand. And with that, we two things: to meet the demand of beef and to have cheap and affordable meat for Papua New Guineans.
According to the minister, this is the first step into investing in the livestock sector. Phase 2 will see quarantine facilities being established and breeder cattle brought into the country. The breeder cattle will help increase the number of kettles in various farms in the country. The minister said the partnership will help generate revenue for the country as well as employment for the people.
We make a bit of revenue in terms of Nakia makes a bit of revenue, LDC makes a bit of revenue, government makes a bit of revenue, provide employment for our people, GST, taxes and everything. So we, in terms of livestock, that's what we are doing now.
According to Vice Minister Connie Guan, there are cattle farms located in most parts of the country. However, due to lack of investment in livestock in the country, the number of cattle has decreased over the years. The Vice Minister hopes to see more investment in the livestock sector to help increase productivity for farmers in the sector.
On seeing cattle must be revived. So we want to see that happening. So maybe in the program, we will also have in the program by bringing in and training our people and giving back cattle to them, and we have at least we raise cattle to the standard of quarantine so that it can be fit to go into abattoir for meat.
Negotiations into this partnership started over 6 years ago, which saw the agreement signed today. Taylor Pacific Managing Director John Taylor, in thanking the department, said production is expected to start as soon as possible.
We had to start with a slaughter protocol, and once we proved ourselves, then we can go back to Canberra and roll out phase 2, which is bringing in breeder cattle, and that combined with growing of stock feed here in Papua New Guinea is what's really going to drive the price of protein down, which is the end game for all of us.
The minister is also calling on more development partners to partner with the department in the livestock sector. Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
The PNG Australian Government Partnership in Education will open doors for more upskilling programs to take place. Australian High Commissioner to PNG Bruce Davies recently visited Untitled High School in Enga Province and made this statement. Untitled High is one of the 13 schools in PNG selected under the partnership program. Vasinatayama files this report.
Untitled High School is one of the remotest schools in the Kompiam Ambum electorate of Enga Province. They say they are privileged to be selected to take part in the partnership program. This program allows for upper secondary school students in PNG to study the Australian curriculum. It also allows for Australian students to come to PNG and be taught about PNG's history, culture, tradition and tourism, which are part of PNG's education curriculum. This is to build the learning capacity and standard of PNG students to the Australian standard.
So never think that this is a one-way program. This is a program very much designed for both Australia and Papua New Guinea to benefit. A true partnership.
The importance of the Twin Education Partnership Program is the introduction of the STEM program, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics program to the 13 selected schools in PNG. Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipatas also encouraged for the Education Department to introduce STEM education to all the schools in PNG. Sir Peter said these will allow for PNG students to easily find jobs overseas. Sir Peter said the inclusion of Untitled High School is an opportunity for Enga to improve in the education standard of the province.
What we have always tried to strive for, we've always wanted excellence. Because if you do well in school, you will have a bright future.
Governor Ipatas told his people that his dream of making Enga an education hub of PNG will soon become reality, and he urged his people to support the vision by living in peace. Other programs that are part of the PNG Australia Partnership Program is the Labour Mobility and Seasonal Workers Program. Vasinatayama, National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
National MTV News continues with more after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. The Department for Community Development and Religion held their third Media Awards night last night. Journalists were applauded and awarded for their outstanding reporting on the department's events and the work of community development and empowerment within the country. PNG Media Council President Neville Choi, in his speech, stated that empowerment rests at the foundation of what every journalist strives to do.
The 2020 Media Awards Night, hosted by the Department for Community Development and Religion, saw 6 journalists from different media organizations recognized for their outstanding reporting. Department Secretary Anna Kavanagh said the media is one of the department's key development partners.
Thank you so much, from TV to print media to any media that's here. We value your partnership with us.
Now in its third year, the awards night is one that aims to empower journalists. Being a journalist comes with much responsibility and also public scrutiny. PNG Media Council President Neville Choi said there have been public statements in the past days made by those in leadership accusing the media of being cruel in their daily reporting roles.
For one, all journalists share a unique perspective of right and wrong. What may appear right and sufficient to some people might only appear as more unanswered questions by journalists. The other commonality amongst journalists is empathy.
However, journalists strive to empower citizens so people know where to go for help.
We, the media, must be used as the conduit between the state and its agencies and the people. with journalists, we never give up. Most journalists are like introverts. So if you give them a piece of information, you have to make sure that you give them the full information. If you don't give them the full information, they'll know, and they'll come after you. And we won't stop coming after you until we get the answers we need.
Award winner for Best Radio Reporter, Kirby David, was grateful for the team she works with. She challenged more organizations to look into recognizing the hard work of reporters and journalists.
We gotta go out of our ways to actually, get stories, and we sacrifice some of our personal times to people to know that, just to put the right stories out there. So if organizations can come up with such occasions like these and award journalists for the, the work that they put out, I think you'll be encouraging journalists to keep doing what we do.
NBC's Jahab Akia got Best TV Reporter. The National's Majori Finkeo got Best Print Media Reporter. And FM 100's Douglas Dimagi took out the Best Overall Individual Media Reporter for 2019. The Secretary's choice went to Rebecca Kuku of The National, and the Minister's choice went to The National's Mount Hagen correspondent Elias Lari. Lilian Sopera-Kinea, National MTV News.
The people with special needs in Leh called on the responsible authorities to visit the communities and consult with the people with special needs when planning. Speaking on behalf of more than 200 people living with disabilities in Leh, Kurari Nota says people with disabilities are suffering in pain because they are unable to join the community life, go to school or work. Julie Badue Oa with this report.
A senior nurse and officer in charge of Leh's Bilmo Road Health Center, Miriam Key, and her team visited the tent city community to collect data of people living with disabilities. The data collection includes an interview with the people living with special needs, following distribution of devices such as hearing aid, crutches and wheelchairs. This was the first time service was brought to their community, according to 58-year-old Kurari Nota, who had his right leg amputated after being diagnosed with diabetes in 2014.
Will come straight to doorstep. Doorstep now give me pla. Was plenty time me pla like go. I'm hard to PMV. Now no transport. Me pla find him out.
The government, through the Department of Religion and Community Development, has come up with so many strategies and policies to remove barriers that hinder persons with disabilities, but not much was done. Speaking on behalf of more than 200 people with disabilities in Leh, Kurari Nota said the disability sector is an area that's lacking attention from responsible authorities.
They have to, as a molestal office now, we keep talk, or maybe sample story or kisim now, we go talk out, we keep planning and all those. But this là when I'm blowing no karim kai. I think it's more better all can come on the ground, looking more facilities or how man is, then all start working planning. And by more better. By all best by all when I'm long walk this issue straight. Now suppose all talk that's on working planning or when I meet fixing my blah one blow policy and I want to planning blow me looking kind of same just also color long book that's all. Now you know what when I'm blow now man me work suffice that. So all this community development, I think all some offices must come on the ground.
Nota said people with disabilities are not enjoying the same rights as others. They are still facing difficulties trying to access services from both private and government institutions. The people with disabilities said their responsible department and divisions should work with them in a humble posture of learning in order to achieve the department's goals and policy. Julie Badui Oa, National MTV News, Leh.
Turning overseas now, German authorities are treating the killing of 9 people in Hanau as a terrorist attack. It's believed the gunman was motivated by far-right and racist ideas after he opened fire in 2 bars, popular with the city's Turkish community.
The aftermath of what now looks to have been a premeditated racist attack in the quiet German town of Hanau, filmed by those watching on in flats above. The suspected gunman's target, 2 shisha bars, cafes for smoking scented tobacco, and popular with Germany's Turkish and Kurdish community. Eyewitnesses have described the panic during the attacks that killed 9 people, 5 of them of Turkish origin. One of those wounded, Mohammed, described what happened from his hospital bed.
He shot straight to the head of everyone he saw. He laid down and then he fired at all of us. I hid behind a wall. As I was moving to hide, he shot me in my arm.
Police say the gunman, named as 43-year-old German national Tobias R., returned to his home, killed his mother, then killed himself. Forensic teams have been searching his property and his car. Investigators are also scrutinising his website, which contained a written manifesto reported to espouse deeply xenophobic views and paints a picture of a man with serious mental health issues. He talks of the state trying to get into his brain. There are big questions now for how German authorities can stop right-wing extremism and the rise in a number of attacks. In the past year, there has been an assassination of a German politician, an attack on a synagogue in the east of the country, and 3 days ago, German police say they dismantled a right-wing extremist cell. And now, this incident. The local MP here told me of existing tensions in the town and said that extremism was an issue which she claimed could be linked to the growth in populism.
We really have to be far more strict on hate speech.
This evening, some of the ethnic minority families living here have told me they're too afraid to go out tonight, worried that a threat may still exist. But many people of Hanau are gathering, laying flowers and tributes for those who've lost their lives.
Up next, some sporting updates in Chukai Sports. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. Children and medical staff at the Port Moresby General Hospital surgical ward who are part of the Operation Open Heart were given a special treat with team management and captain Josh Jackson of the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Staff and patients of the Operation Open Heart were happy to receive the Bulldogs.
The Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs senior management, the captain and coach this afternoon were at the Port Moresby General Hospital to spread cheer to patients and hospital staff. They visited the Operation Open Heart Surgery team, which is made up of Australian volunteer doctors and medical staff from Papua New Guinea who are in the forefront of heart surgery for children. It was exciting for the hospital staff who could not hold back the excitement as they took photos and were gifted a jersey by the Bulldogs. For the children who were recovering from surgery, it was soothing for them to have the players talk to them and also receive gifts from them. Bulldog CEO Andrew Hill, football manager Stephen Price, captain Josh Jackson and coach Dean Pay were privileged to acknowledge the work between Australia and PNG medical staff.
Dr. Ian Nicholson that comes over regularly and does a lot of heart surgery and of the like, so we knew he was over here and got in contact with us, and we were more than happy to come up and just see the kids and put a smile on their face. And it's important that we know this PNG is a really rugby league nation, so it's good to get out in the community and meet some kids and try and put a smile on their face.
Bulldog CEO Andrew Hill said as a club the team wanted to show some positive difference and thank and acknowledge work done by the two countries' medical experts.
We've just come from a couple of school visits, which was fantastic for the boys to see healthy young boys and girls. And then to be able to bring captain and coach and Steve Price, who's obviously played for Australia here, to put a couple of smiles on some really sick kids is really important. The Bulldogs is more than just a rugby league team. We're more than just a club that plays in the NRL. We like to think that we can make a positive difference to people's lives. We know we're role models. And if we can come here and thank and acknowledge the wonderful volunteers from both Australia and Papua New Guinea and say good day to a couple of the boys and girls, that's really important for us.
For Captain Josh Jackson, it was about putting things into perspective and seeing things differently. and appreciating the support of Papua New Guineans to rugby league.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Puts things into perspective for us coming from a different culture, but it's been a fantastic experience, and it's great to come into the hospital to see all the work that all the doctors, the nurses and all the support staff do here. It's absolutely incredible.
The Bulldogs are looking forward to the match, the first time for them to play in PNG, and they are anticipating a passionate crowd tomorrow at the Oil Search National Football Stadium.
We're looking really good, prepared really well, and really looking forward to the game. I've been over here and played a couple of times in Papua New Guinea here at Port Moresby, and it's always a very passionate and supportive crowd, so I expect the same tomorrow.
My name?
Fidelis Sukina, National, Emtv Sports.
That's really beautiful.
Coaching staff from the two visiting teams, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, today gave presentations on their coaching and training programs to Digital Cup coaches in a bid to have the Intercity Cup coaches understand the fundamentals of how NRL coaches map out their training programs.
Coaches from the Digital Cup competition in Papua New Guinea had a first-hand experience today, listening to the coaches from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs give presentations on the work each of the coaches do and their specific role in the team. For former Bulldogs great and current club manager of football Steve Price, he sees this as a great opportunity to grow the game.
Of course, by having opportunities like this, speaking to coaches, speaking to referees, obviously know the local coach now, Churchy, so he's obviously trying to lift that. Hopefully that'll lift the local competition. That'll give the young men and women of Papua New Guinea an opportunity to see that there is a pathway.
Price mentioned that in order to have a strong team at NRL level, there has to be specific coaches that take care of skill sets of the team to prepare them for game day.
Is the coaches are allowed to focus on particular skills, so we've got a defensive coach, attacking coach, head coach, we've got a skills coach, we've got a strength and conditioning coach and a conditioner. So all those guys are actually just focusing on that particular area. But Tony brings all those guys in as head of high performance to be working together, as well as our well-being, as well as our recruitment. All of that sort of stuff has to come, all together as one big puzzle.
Price mentioned that funding to have strong systems in place to have clubs training at optimum capability was important, especially if Papua New Guinea wants to have a club at the NRL level.
Resource is important and funding is important too, so if you haven't got the resource or funding, if you haven't got the funding to have that model, it's hard to have the resource, but it doesn't always mean to have 300 people working for you is going to be better. It's sometimes little is better. You just got to have the right people doing the right thing and everyone understanding what that is.
Price, who had been to PNG in the past for the Prime Minister's 13th clash, has been talking to the current players of the experience in PNG, and he knows they will love the atmosphere at the field tomorrow.
Boys who haven't been here, I was saying, you'll never get experience like it. It's a really good experience, and they've sort of said it's absolutely been a great experience so far. So when they actually get to play in front of the crowd, that'll be even better, and then we'll obviously return to start our season, which will be awesome.
Felix Sukina, National, Emtv Sports.
Chukai Sports continues with more after these messages. Stay with us.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Chukai Sports. What a week it's been for two-time Olympic rower Hamish Bond, fresh from taking out the men's time trial at the New Zealand Row Cycling Championships. He appears again at the National Rowing Championship.
Another day and another national championships for Hamish Bond. Last week it was cycling, today it's rowing, and he couldn't be happier.
Getting to the end of my career, so I don't know how many opportunities I'll have left to, exhibit my ability. So that was one that I thought I'd have a go at.
The men's pair final, another chance for Bond to show he's still got it. He and crewmate James Lash are vying for Olympic selection in the men's 8 team. And what better way to nail their spot than smashing a field stacked with national squad members.
The Southern RPC are going to be the New Zealand champions for 2020.
The duo racking up their 3rd national title together and a record 9th for Bond.
Yeah, 9th in the pair, so that's good. I think I'm equal now with Weibo Veldman who had the obviously the most previously. I think he had 9, so good to be equal. I have to one more year. I have to count back. No, I don't know. I think that might be it. I'm happy to be equal.
Don't worry about being equal. Bond actually surpasses rowing great Webo Veldman's 8 national titles. Also nabbing a fair few titles of her own is World Pairs champion Grace Prendergast. Her and Emma Dyke just holding off fellow world champion Kerry Gowler and her crewmate Beth Ross by 0.05 seconds.
To be honest, we thought they had it, and then it wasn't until we came around and saw my dad and he said that. I think it's so exciting, like it's probably been the closest Nationals pair final I've ever been in.
While Gowler and Prendergast are all but confirmed in the pair for the Tokyo Olympics, members from the women's 8 are hoping to have them in that crew too.
Obviously, having the world's best pair in our boat would be a huge advantage and definitely a confidence booster for us.
It'll all be based on results. More podiums at the World Cups in the coming months would make it a sure thing.
And that ends Shukai Sports. With the details coming up next.
Shukai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast in the southern region. Mostly fine weather in Alotau. In the Mamasa region, fine weather, showers later in Whanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Lorengau. And in the Highlands region, morning fog clearing to rain showers in Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
Now that's been the news, sport and weather for today, Friday, the 21st of February 2020. On behalf of the entire MTV News team, pleasant viewing. Have a safe weekend. Good night.